Wukro, an Ethiopian Aleppo. An eyewitness, a citizen journalist from the heart of Wukro city, documents a heartbreaking story, a disturbing footage. Dear viewers, this is Eastern Media and the program is Focus. Today's focus focuses on the filing and documentations of a young amateur filmmaker and an ordinary citizen's narrations of the war in Wukro city, the eastern zone of Tigray. The city, surrounded by Khilitaw La'lo Warada district in its English translation, is mainly known for its rock-hewn church and other most distinctive historical landmarks, including the Al-Najashi Mosque. As we scanned through some of the stories on the social media this past week, this story by a young fellow grabbed my attention. It reminded me of the lesson from the School of Journalism and Communication on citizen journalism. Citizen journalism, sometimes described as collaborative, participatory, and democratic, among others, is an action where what they are called public citizens play an active role in the process of collecting, reporting, analyzing, and disseminating news and information. This act was especially observed in the Arab Spring movement. In fact, those incidents used to be in the eyes of the world and were getting a wider coverage by international media outlets. The war in Tigray looks very peculiar and, in fact, as far as I know, is the first of its kind in the 21st century and even in the history of humankind. 3 months have been elapsed since the region was cut off from the rest of the world and local and international media outlets were denied access to the region. Hence, what is better than the documentations of the likes of this brave young inhabitant of the city of Wukro? If it grabbed my attention, I believe it will catch your mind too, and in a way enable us understand the level of civilian casualties, material destructions, and demolishing of historical sites. Please stay with the program to understand the pain of this citizen journalist at the city that I want to call the Ethiopian Aleppo. This is Shimelis Marisa Gabra Mikael and the program is Focus. Some call it a strategy, others call it brutality, some call it an act of aggression, while others label it as a legitimate action. Let's leave the issue of politics aside. What most citizens in international communities, including the aid workers and media outlets, are concerned about is the level of humanitarian crisis in Tigray. So far, eyewitness accounts, NGOs and aid workers, UN humanitarian organizations and satellite images provided us with enough information on the genocidal acts, war crimes and destruction of properties. This unknown citizen journalist's narrative from his hometown is the reaffirmation to the already horrible reports coming from the region. He plainly narrates the wreckage imposed on his people and the historical locations he is proud of. As this citizen journalist narrates, the city means a lot to him. My city is my life, a place where my childhood memory, adulthood accomplishments are highly attached with. The young fellow recounts the past. He described the incidents he encountered with a broken heart and a sense of urgency in the move towards rescuing his fellow city dwellers and Tigrayans alike and saving precious historical sites as well as infrastructures of the region. My city has turned to the like of Aleppo and other cities in Syria and Yemen thanks to the decision of Abiy Ahmed. The young fellow continues his story, supported by some disturbing images, as you could observe. Nations and nationalities in Ethiopia, please rescue the city alongside its 60,000 plus dwellers and the well over 80 rock-hewn churches, the true depictions of the Orthodox Tewahedo faith and the likes of the Al-Najashi, an iconic mosque that Ethiopian and international followers of the Muslim faith are proud of, and unique architectural buildings and graceful locations that serve as the symbol of the preservation of history and religious tolerance in the city. My city, encompassing all these precious things, was bombarded for about 5 days in a row with heavy artillery, including drones and machine guns. Many civilian deaths and migrations of abundant inhabitants of the city were observed following these bombardments and continuous shelling of the city's iconic locations, the young fellow reports right from the city. Eritrean forces in the Ethiopian Defense Force then occupied the city, where happened to continue the atrocities thereafter. From the lootings and destructions of expensive properties like machineries and vehicles to the robberies of petty possessions of citizens, the damage continued for weeks and months. Civil service institutions, including clinics, banks, schools, factories, and many more, were destroyed without any mercy. Machineries, vehicles, computers, and other electronic devices were looted and at times changed to ashes, as you can see. Women, including the elderly and devoted Christians alienated from the worldly life, like nuns, were raped. Young girls were abducted and raped by military forces. The Al-Najashi Mosque, St. Emmanuel Church, and other religious sites were bombarded. Historical artifacts and books were also looted. I haven't observed any protection by the Ethiopian military forces whatsoever when all these harms and destructions were made. They were rather the major actors and cooperated with the Eritrean forces. I never expected cruelty of this scale, describes this citizen journalist. Observing these inhuman acts forces me to fight any kind of aggression and join the struggle that will eventually emancipate my region and its people once and forever. I'm so surprised as to why the so-called journalists, activists, and politicians gave a deaf ear to all these merciless acts, says this young fellow with anger and dismay. I'm now truly sensing how the sovereignty and territorial integrity of my country was capitulated, and for that I, he says satirically, would like to congratulate the incumbent Ethiopian political leadership. At this point, I lost the hope in the rescue and supportive efforts that come from Ethiopians. I would rather like the world to know the truth, how the shutting of the media and the complete information blockage were meant for the mass killings of innocent civilians and destructions of public properties. I hope and believe the parties involved in such acts will stand in front of International Court of Justice. Cruel acts and punishments by Abiy Ahmed on the people of Tigray will one day be vividly elaborated. I heard labeling TPLF as junta. Having seen all these acts myself, who do you think should be labeled as junta anyway? An elected legitimate administration or an illegitimate government? The eyewitness continues asking. This citizen journalist also challenged President Sahle-Work Zewde as to why she, as a woman, doesn't sense the sufferings of the young girls and women. He continues challenging the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, who said nothing when all the damages were done to its sole religious institutions. Leaders and religious fathers of the Islamic faith who failed to denounce the destructions of historical sites, including the Al-Najashi Mosque. He also said that it was so unfortunate to observe the likes of the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission and the different civil and social institutions in the country not to denounce these inhuman acts. The acts are truly genocidal, says this eyewitness. The acts of attacking the people of Tigray has, in fact, started long time ago through the propaganda on the media. deliberate blockage of its budget, cutting off means of transportations and other basic needs. The acts of genocide and demolishing of the region has now reached its climax. We have been observing our immediate family members being killed in daylight. Our friends and relatives were abducted and raped. We are all currently at the crossroad of genocide and surviving from all these brutal actions. This by itself might appear to be a miracle anyway. Finally, I call upon everyone who view this video to translate the message in different languages and disseminate it to the world. I wish justice will be served soon and war criminals will stand in front of the court. In my upcoming videos, I'll try to portray the images of the dead innocent civilians and wish you all the best until then, concludes this citizen journalist. Well, with that, today's edition of Focus comes to an end. Eastern media attempted to respond to the call of this brave citizen journalist from what they called the Ethiopian Aleppo, which is Wukro. Using his simple tool and amateur filming skill, he did it wonderfully. Hope you have sensed the true meaning of citizen journalism and the power of storytelling in these moving pictures. It is so sad to observe such depressing stories. We wish safety and security of this young fellow and the people of that region in general. This has been Shumalus Marasa Gabr Mikhail. Thank you for watching and goodbye for now.
ዛሬ በዚህ ላብቃ ቀጣይ የተረሸኑትን የተደፈሩትን የወደሙ የጤና ተቋማትና ቤተ እምነት እሱን ተከትሎ የደረሰ አጋጣሚ ዱብዳ የያዙ ቪዲዮዎችም አሉ አቀርባለሁ ይህ ቪዲዮ በአፋን ኦሮሞ በእንግሊዝኛና አረብኛና ሌሎች ቋንቋዎች ተርጉማችሁ ለሁሉም የፍትህ የእውነት ሰው እንዲገነዘበው አድርሱልን ቀጣይ በዝርዝር አጥራ አድርጌ ከነቃለ መጠየቁ ወደ እናንተ አድርሰዋለሁ እስከዛ ቸርን ሰንብት ሰላም ለኢትዮጵያ ድል ለጭቁኑ የትግራይ ህዝብ ክብርና ሞገስ ለሁሉም ሰማዕታት ይሁን